The Nigerian government has demonstrated its commitment to improving the ease of doing business and access to credit to consumers and small businesses through various policy initiatives. Now, this includes the promotion of credit reporting infrastructure and collateral registry enacting enabling laws, including the Credit Reporting Act 2017 and Secure Transaction in Movable Assets Act 2017, promoting financial inclusion and advancing various forms of direct and indirect interventions in loans and grants to strategic economic agents. Now, the commitment resulted in Nigeria making the greatest stride in improving access to getting credit in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business rankings, making the country move up 15 places from its 2019 spot and has been tagged as one of the most improved economies in the world for running a business. Now, the interventions and initiatives by the government provides a necessary enabling environment and a strong regulatory framework that required credit granting institutions to do more through access to credit by MSMEs and consumers in Nigeria still remains very low. Despite the country's huge population of over 190 million people, less than 15 million persons and entities have enjoyed at least one credit form from formal banking institutions. Now, in addition, according to a communique given by the Central Bank of Nigeria in January 2020, credit to the private sector grew from 12.82% in November 2019 to 13.1% in December of 2019. Now, the role of credit bureaus are essential in creating sound financial infrastructures to facilitate lending and help expand access to credit to a significant share of individuals, microfinance and small medium enterprises, which can result in exponential growth in retail lending and significantly improve production and consumption, thereby stimulating economic growth. Despite their strategic positions and role in the economy, credit bureaus help consumers, customers, and small businesses obtain financing by offering timely, credible, and objective information on borrowers, allowing financial institutions reduce loan processing time and cost by 25% or more, while equally cutting default rates by 40 to 80%. These savings, no doubt, can mean lower interest rates, making credit more affordable and available to those in need. I have joining me to give live in the studio to give more insight into our topic of discuss. He's the chairman of Credit Bureau Association of Nigeria. That's CBAN. That's Mr. Oladimeji Peters. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Peters.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to really have you on the show. I want us to start with CBAN as an association, its objectives, and what you really stand for.
Well, CBAN as an association has a singular objective of ensuring that people can have access to credit when they need it, even if they need it for surviving. As an association, CBAN is basically free credit bureaus in Nigeria. That's CRC Credit Bureau, Credit Registry, and First Central Credit Bureau. So we came together as an association and decided these are the objectives we intend to promote. The objective of financial inclusion, the objective of ensuring that people can have access to credit, and credit extension doesn't come with a high default risk, and people can, take money responsibly and, also make payments responsibly.
Nigeria, our population, we say we're about 200 million or more than 190 million. We've heard a lot of figures. How well would you say credit bureaus are fared in Nigeria? Because people still say they have problems in accessing credit.
Well, yes, in some cases you hear situations where people say, well, we are unable to access credit. And that's usually because they either haven't built a credit report over time or for many reasons anyways. But the key thing for us as an association is we try to foster, credit extension, either working with the fintechs, the traditional banking system, and all of that. So for those that don't have, access to credit, we'll normally just say, at the very first stage, get your credit report. That helps you solve the issue of information asymmetry with, the financial institution. If, for instance, you approach a financial institution and you try to get credit, they usually will just say, well, we won't give you this money. But what you usually don't know is there's a lot of book building on the background where they check for your credit report, they try to see whether you are a performing client or whether you have a tendency to default. Now, if that be the case, if you have defaulted on past obligations, they simply would say, well, we cannot extend this credit to you. And so the individual goes away thinking, why didn't they extend the credit to me? But in actual fact, it's just your credit report saying otherwise on the background.
Oh, okay. So tell us now about this credit report. And I think I read through something yesterday, credit scores. Take us through that.
Well, the credit report system is basically a system of data aggregation based on, a evidence-based belief system. In fact, the word credit itself comes from the Latin word credo, which means I believe. Now, what we do with the credit is we try to create a belief system based on evidence. In other words, how have you performed in the past? Why should people commit to you or believe that you will make repayments if you've not made repayments in the past? So if you've taken money from GT Bank, maybe one or two banks, and you didn't pay, there's no reason any other person should make financial commitments to you, because you simply won't honor that obligation. So for us, again, the reporting aspect is where we aggregate the data sets and we collate it together just to give a full financial or credit overview for that individual or company, and that's on the credit reporting side. Then for the scoring, we simply aggregate, a statistical number, if a 3-digit statistical number, where we say, this is your probability to either perform or default, and so the number can run from as low as 0 to 1,000, depending on the credit bureau you're actually using.
Wow. People come out to talk about challenges faced by particularly now MSMEs, accessing credit. Do all of this, how do they affect the ability of SMEs in obtaining loans, your activities? How does it affect them in getting loans?
Indeed, you're very correct. I mean, I talk to MSMEs every now and then and various webinars and sections, and the usual culprit when it comes to startups and MSMEs in Nigeria is finance. So you say, what's the number one challenge you face? And they say, well, access to finance is a major challenge. So what we've also done, and in some of the advocacies and initiatives that we follow through, is to make sure that we focus strongly on MSMEs and their ability to also now access funding. Again, one of the things that we continue to push out there is that you need a credit report. You need a credit report. Some MSMEs don't even know their credit report until they get to the bank. And it's funny because about 12 to 14% of loans in the Nigeria, or credit in the Nigeria market, are actually overdraft. So you can have some form of charges that can knock your account into debit. And at the time when you need the money, you don't know that until you actually get to the bank. So you get to the bank and they say, well, you've had accrued charges, SMS alerts, bank charges of some sort, and it has knocked this account into some form of an overdraft. Now, you need the money, and the timeliness of action is no longer there, because you now have to go back, clear the loan, and ensure that you come back to the bank and now have access to funds. So as a first stage, we say we want to reduce the information asymmetry, both on the borrower side and on the lending side. We want them to be able to know what your credit report is for the MSMEs before they even get to the bank. So they are proactive and they're already prepared for what it is.
Let me play the devil's advocate here. Are you going to say that credit bureaus have been doing very well in get access to this credit? How well are they doing to letting MSMEs get this credit? If you're to assess, it's not really easy to assess oneself, but what do you think? How well has it been getting these funds out?
Well, I would say we are doing fabulously well. If I were to rate credit bureau on the scale of 1 to 10, I would say 12.
Indeed.
And this is
I was expecting that, actually. Go ahead.
This isn't just me playing advocacy for CBAN, or Credit Bureau Association of Nigeria. It is consciously evaluating that people, MDs of credit bureau, pay conscious effort into seeing that people can have access to funds, not just even the MSMEs. So they go out there, advocacy roadshows, they're in the paper, they're writing to regulators, and they're pushing policies where it's necessary, and just also ensuring that things can fall in place for people to actually have access to the fund that they need. even if they need it.
Sounds really good. Let's now look at the regulator side. I know you definitely have an interaction or maybe dealings with the Central Bank of Nigeria, which is the Apex Bank. Take us through how that has been and how that affects your day-to-day dealings or your business dealings. Tell us about that.
Well, the regulators pretty much will, again, regulators. And one of the things they do at times is to call us and see what's your operational experience and how can we translate this into policies, for instance. How do we take the feedback from you and improve on that and maybe for policy formulation purposes, or how do we incentivize you to help you, perform better? So the regulators are doing a lot. Our relationship with the CBN is not just regulatory. It's also one of support. They've been very helpful. And so for the regulators as well, they also try to push us to make sure that we're actually, doing well in terms of data aggregation, data reporting, and all of that as well.
No, you're here at least creating a little bit of awareness, telling Nigerians about what you do, what more. But I'm looking at, as an association, what more do you do to create awareness for your initiatives and offerings that you have to the public?
What we do a lot of roadshow, for one, advocacy. Between 2012 and 2019, we were very lender focused. So we spoke more to the commercial banks, to the fintechs, and other institutions would go out in the papers, on radio, on TV, and all of that. And we meet with the credit officers and all of us just to create more awareness. But on between 2019 and now, we've actually started to shift focus more to the consumer side, right? So now we're looking at MSMEs, we're looking at the customers, the end users of the loan, and we're saying we're creating more awareness for them as well, because the dynamics can also be funny, not just from the bank to, usually it's a case of, you've borrowed money and you're not paying back. But you can also have predating lending where, for instance, you've borrowed money and the bank doesn't want you to pay back just because they can now have incremental interest rate of some sort. So we also have to now create awareness on the side of the customer who's using the funds.
That sounds very good. But in all of this, you should have some challenges. It can't just all be smooth all the while. What are the challenges you face in transacting all of this? Credit assessment, that data aggregation. What are the challenges you face in your job?
Well, one of the key challenges from the start was the challenge of a lack of unique identifiers. And you have the data opinion part where you have scarcity of data, or even where you have the data, it's in fragments, or where maybe a bank has a retail section and they have the normal lending section. So they have different databases doing different aggregation. So collecting the data in a centralized form is usually very taxing for the bank. So you have, and all of that we've been able to conquer over time. We've seen the regulators come in with unique identifiers like BVN, which has been very helpful. We've also seen the bank come to terms with the idea that with the belief system that we need to have more data, and they are actually open to that and accept this because they understand now that it's to their own advantage when they submit data to the credit bureau. Really, we just report what they submit to us, and it's to their advantage because once you have a bad credit with a bank, no other bank wants to do business with you. They simply say, okay, go and pay back your. So it helps the collection process and their receivables or the recovery of their funds out there. And you would see that that has also translated to economics or financial indices. You would see that in the 90s when there were no credit bureau, we had billions of naira out there as non-performing loans. But currently, we've seen that the non-performing loans have actually dropped with the establishment of a credit bureau. And all of these indicators help us believe strongly that we're doing the right thing.
Let's close on this note. Do you have specific requests from either the regulators or from government that will make your job, of course, easier, that of your association? What are your expectations? What are you telling your members? COVID-19 has come and it has affected all sectors. I'm sure there will be one or two effects on all your business too.
Indeed, there were effects we were struggling with, but it's not out of place to say that if there is a parting word I would like to leave with, it would be the idea that people really need to get their credit reports. They really need to know what is reported against their names. I've seen cases where people come in and say, I never took that loan. That's not my loan. When in actual fact, that's their loan. And they feign ignorance completely. And we've also seen cases where on the banking side, we've seen where the customer says, well, I've paid down this loan. And for some reason, it's hanging in some suspense account. So it's important for people to actually know their credit score, have a, an idea of what their credit report says about them, just so that they are prepared for future activities. Yeah.
I have to know my credit score at the moment now. I think I really need to investigate that. But I think I'm doing very good. Mr. Oladimeji Peters, I must thank you very much. He's the chairman of Bureau, that's Credit Bureaus, right?
Yes,
Association of Nigeria. I've done a lot with, I think, with CRS and Credit Registry at a particular time where we talked so very well about this. I think I'm trying to remember the name of the CEO and I'm trying to place it now. But I must thank you so much for your time, at least breaking this down, letting us understand what you stand for and what Nigerians should expect from you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for spending your money with us on the show.